All right, folks. I'm here with Aaron Bisbee of Logistics Plus for a brief property member truck parking club interview. Appreciate Aaron for hopping on with us, sharing his story, and let's just get right into it. So, Aaron, great to have you. Why don't you just give us a bit background on yourself and on Logistics Plus?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Reed. I've been with Logistics Plus here a little over 7 years. I'm the business development manager here. I started in operations, and now I do business development, sales, and then I stay in the operations with some complicated, more than A to B traditional brokerage stuff, using our warehouses, transloading, just a little bit of everything. So it's a great job. Get to do something different every day, and Logistics Plus, great company. We've been around about 27 years now, and over 7 million square feet of warehousing, about 1,200 employees, and we're in 49 different countries now.
So, not a small operation, I guess, to put it lightly.
Humbly started here out of Erie, Pennsylvania, right by the lake, and Mistake by the Lake, but we love it. Beautiful summers.
Mistake by the Lake. I've not heard that one. I like that one. I might use that eventually. I'll keep that one in my back pocket. All right, cool. So, I guess just tell us about you've got 8 million square feet, I believe you said, of warehousing. Where around the country is that? Like, what does that operation look like?
So mostly strategic locations. So we go and acquire warehousing as needed for our customer base. We do a ton of solar work, solar panels in and out of the U.S. About 70% of the solar panels that come into the U.S. we get handled. So our locations are mostly strategic around the port cities: Los Angeles, New Jersey, Miami, Dallas, Chicago are our big hubs. Then we've got some large locations inland as well, with South Carolina and Arizona. Arizona being our biggest facility. We have 3 facilities there, all pretty close to each other, and that's a little over 2.5 million between those 3 buildings.
And okay, so obviously these are strategic to you and your customers, a critical point in the business. When did you hear about Truck Parking Club? How did you hear about it? And just walk me through that.
Sure. I try and stay up on industry news. I listen to the DAT podcast pretty regularly, and then one of the ones I was listening to was with your founder, Evan, was on there, and thought it was really cool. I said we have a lot of unused outside space. Indoor spaces are usually pretty filled up. Occasionally we get outdoor projects, but most customers don't want to store their product outside. So we have a lot of outdoor space. These buildings are usually built with, our type of facility is 70 to 120 doors. We don't need that many. At the end of the day, unless you're doing some big move-in, move-out projects where you're trying to, if you're doing 20, 30 trucks a day, you're using a lot of doors. But most of our facilities, once the inventory is in there, the move-in and move-out is usually pretty minimized because it's a lot of projects. So we have a ton of space available that I thought we could utilize and generate some revenue, and also provide a great service for our vendors, focusing on the vendor relationship as part of my role as well, trying to develop good vendor relationships with some of the larger carrier bases, as well as the small mom and pop. We try and treat everybody right. Everybody's got to make a buck and make a living, and we can't exist without them doing a great job as well.
And so was it you saw Evan on the podcast and you instantly were like, oh, sounds like a great idea, and you shopped it internally? Like, what was the reception to the idea? Like, oh, I want to list extra space on our warehouses for parking internally. Sure. How did that go?
So for me, what I've found the best way to do is try and do a test run with 1 or 2 facilities, which we did. We used Chicago and Erie. We tried it out. We just tested it. Said, hey, let's throw 3 or 4 spaces on here and see what happens. It's a pretty fluid organization, and they let me have a lot of control in decision making. There's not a lot of checks and balances in a good way. We definitely take advantage of situations. We're pretty nimble, so we were able to try it out within, I think, about a week. I floated it around here internally and got some approval to try it. And we tried it for a month and found out it worked pretty well. So then we opened up, I believe, 5 more facilities or 6 more facilities with Truck Parking Club.
Yeah, and so I'm assuming the onboarding process was pretty seamless for you. You didn't really have any hiccups, anything to share about that?
Yeah, the onboarding process is great. Your team gets on a call. They walk through the facility. We get the warehouse manager on board if they're not. I obviously sit in Erie, PA here, so I was able to set up Erie. But Chicago, we brought on the warehouse manager and said, hey, where do you want these guys to park? Your team was great with drawing out some maps and making sure everybody was on the same page with where everybody's going to park, and it makes it pretty smooth on our end. Not a whole lot of friction for anybody. It's a pretty seamless integration.
And how have the warehouse managers received it? Any feedback from them?
A little bit of concern at first. They were worried about, kind of how are we going to track this?
Yep.
With your guys' system, it's pretty easy. They really don't have to do a whole lot. Occasionally, we have to check in, but or help somebody find out where the parking is. But other than that, it's really simple.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No. I mean, I think there when you're kind of sitting in your business development role, I think that it can be easy to think this is a great idea. But when you're talking to the boots on the ground folks who are actually going to be like interfacing with drivers or dealing with the issues that might arise, they might have some more concern. So it's good to hear that so far so good on that end, and they're hopefully warming up to the idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And the control that we have to, if we do have a project coming up where we're going to be taking up a lot of doors and we don't want the extra traffic, we can kind of turn off the spaces. We've got some monthly parking members that we make room for that we're aware of that we can't really turn on and off because they're there. But we have the relationship with those guys because they are monthly parkers. We can go talk to them. Hey, can you guys move to the other side of the building this week? We're doing a big move out, or we've got a lot of inbounds coming. So it really, again, it helps reinforce the relationship with our vendors. And our vendors being the carrier, the truck drivers, and the truck driving companies for the larger groups, so we can not negotiate, but we can work with them. And it's been really great to also get to know what lanes they run. Hey, you're running a lot. We actually have some freight going there or coming from there.
Mm-hmm.
So building some relationships and making sure that we create long-term working relationships that are beneficial for us and them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's super interesting. I mean, you're basically, it's like a carrier lead gen tool in a way, because you've got folks coming in and stopping, you get to talking to them. Next thing you know, you might find a fleet that you didn't know about. So that's actually super interesting.
Yeah, we've got a group of people that, hey, we might have a project or a customer coming up where they're going, they have a project delivering a bunch of freight to where they're backhauling from, or vice versa. And we can create, it's a win-win. If we can find money to incentivize those guys, some of these short hauls, there's not backhauls available. And that's the regional local work we kind of look for these projects, because they're obviously moving space. They're moving freight into a warehouse to deliver at some point in time to their end user. We're not fulfilling a lot of that, so it works out great.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. So, I guess just high level, like how have the results been? Like how is the experience from you went live to now? Like how has that been?
Sure, we've had really good results. We've had good revenue from the project. Converting the revenue into what it would cost from obtaining a new client, because it's essentially pure profit for us. There's really not a whole lot of cost involved. We've got the parking spaces paid for because we lease the building anyways. So we really don't have to there's not a whole lot of cost involved. So converting that into potential revenue of what it would cost to make that profit is pretty interesting to see how much we've made. The bigger contracts help. The multi-truck spots for monthly parking, but the daily parking even has really helped a lot, and especially in like Chicago, really busy hub where we don't have a ton of spaces, so we don't open up a whole lot of monthly parking, but we do a lot of day of or weekend parking.
So basically, you guys think about it like the way you frame the revenue you get from Truck Parking Club. You basically just think about it like, okay, we made X from selling parking. What would it have taken us to make that same revenue in our normal business channels?
Yeah, sure. I mean, anything you do normally, you're going to charge a revenue for, and then you're going to have profit left over after you take out all your costs. So really no costs involved in only it being profit. That revenue is pretty much all profit. So if you convert that back into sales dollars, we divide, say your goal is 10%. So you take that 10 grand that you made for the month, and
it's a lot of revenue.
Yeah, it's 100 grand you'd have to charge somebody to make that 10 grand another way. So
yeah, that's a super interesting way to think about it, especially for from the 3PL standpoint. I mean, that's actually very interesting. So I guess we'll hopefully maybe get some ways we can improve out of you in a second. because you've said a lot of nice things about us, and we got to try to be balanced here. But I guess is it safe to say that you and folks internally are satisfied with the value we've provided you?
Yeah, yeah. Everything working with your team has been great. There's not a whole lot of improvement. Our improvement calls that we've had have been very minor, mostly like contact and directions of where to park. So it's a little less friction on our team on the ground side. But other than that, there's really not a whole lot of criticism, constructive or negative. There's really not a whole lot to add to what we're actually doing.
Mm-hmm. Just hopefully just more business as time goes on, right?
Yeah, generate more business down the road, and again,
Yep.
keep creating those relationships with the carriers. Down the road, we've talked about having more like cross-docking customers and getting more customers in the long run. Having carriers refer us. Hey, we have a great warehouse we park at that has space available if you need anything, or these guys are really great to work with for transportation side too.
So thinking about ways long term, it can water other areas of the business essentially.
Yeah, and there's cross-dock work that's always available. Guys have a load shift or they have a load cancel and they need to pick something else up.
Yep.
This stuff happens in trucking. We've all been there where you get stuck at a receiver and they say, hey, we can't take this for 2 weeks. You don't want to sit on that freight for 2 weeks. That broker doesn't want to pay you to sit on that freight for 2 weeks. So we unload at the warehouse, hold it until they have the next available appointment. It's still going to cost you some money, but it's a hell of a lot cheaper than paying a carrier their daily bread to sit on that freight and for the driver to be stuck there.
Those are the worst situations ever.
It's not great.
I've been in my fair share of those. I get it.
We try and minimize it on our side. Our brokerage, we make sure we call shippers and receivers and talk to everybody and make sure everybody's on the same page. But stuff happens. So we're always available at our facilities, with all of them being warehouses, nothing really being like a parking lot. We don't have any of those facilities. We have 1 yard potentially that we're going to start, but right now everything has a warehouse connected to it. So the warehouse services are available, all the carriers and all the customers that we deal with.
Sweet. I guess to put a bow on this, I have one more question here. I feel like I know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Would you recommend Truck Parking Club to similar businesses such as Logistics Plus, 3PL brokers, whoever?
Yeah, I think it's great. If you're operating a warehouse or a 3PL and you have a warehouse partner that's available and they have parking spots available, why not? I mean, the space is sitting there. You're really not utilizing it to set it aside. If you have a potential customer, maybe doing outdoor storage, sure. The only thing that's really prohibited us from opening up in all of our locations is our lease agreements where we can't park. That's the only thing that's really prohibited any more expansion from our existing facilities. But if you've got empty space, that's the name of warehousing. I mean, you're trying to fill empty space. So that empty space exists outside and inside. Might as well take advantage of it. There's really no harm in trying it, because your guys' service, if nobody takes advantage of it, you're in the same spot you were in a month ago. Whereas if they're filling it, you guys are providing the service and providing the network to those truck drivers that are looking for somewhere to park that's not maybe a little bit more secure. They want to leave their truck for their shutdown or their reset, or they're just looking for somewhere to sleep that's close to their destination instead of a truck stop that's 40 miles away and they don't want to deal with traffic. You look at Chicago, Miami, all these really busy areas, LA, you don't want to sit in traffic for 2 hours. That 30 miles is worth an extra, $30, $40 to park for the night. If I can get an hour and a half closer and not deal with the traffic in the morning, I'm paying that all day if I'm a driver.
Amen. If you, maybe we can bring you on sometime to help send that message to some drivers out there. No, I'm just kidding. I'll handle that. All right, great. Well, I really appreciate it, Aaron. Obviously, we love having your properties on the platform. I think the success speaks for itself, and we're happy to have you. And I know the drivers who utilize your facilities are happy about that as well. So. We value you as a property member here and appreciate you. And if you ever have feedback, positive or negative, obviously we're all ears. I think that's we can put a bow on it there.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for the time, Reed.
All right. See you later, Aaron.